Hey, welcome to the show today. My name is Mike Phillips, and this is the Leadership Toolkit, where we spend time with people from all kinds of different industries so that they can help with your influence, teach you from where they're at, their successes, their failures. I have a lot of collaborative conversations, and I have had some amazing people on the show, and today is no exception. Today, I bring to you my good friend, Lou Ramirez.
What's up, brother? So excited to be up in here with you. So glad that we were able to make this work. Thank you for accommodating a special time for those of you tuning in.
Absolutely.
This is a special brew for you. We're excited about doing it. But Mike, thank you so much for having me on, brother. Honored to be here.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate it. And yeah, you're right. Special time, special edition, special dude for sure. So, Lou, if you would do me a favor, and in case somebody's been living under a rock, especially if they're in the auto industry, because you're heavy in the auto industry, you do a lot of training, you have a lot of influence there. But if someone is not familiar with Lou Ramirez, Car Guy Coffee, you being a certified solutionary, and what did you say right before the show about certified solutions? If they want to work with you, you said schedule a solution session. Do I have that right?
That's right.
All right. So
a solution session with us. Yes, that's right.
So if you would jump in and just share with the audience sort of what you do, what your background is, some of your background in leadership, and then we'll get into having some conversation here, man.
Excellent. Well, I am Lou Ramirez, the Car Guy. I am the host of the Car Guy Coffee podcast and the CEO of Solutions at Certified Solutionaries. Certified Solutionaries is our agency where we do work together with dealers and vendors inside of the industry to upshift their culture and to make sure that they're doing some of the best practices inside of the business, whether it's delivering a car or delivering a message to a dealer. If you're on this side of the vendors, either way, we work with multiple people inside of the industry and beyond to be able to help shift culture and help provide some of the best solutions in the business. I am a 20+ year car guy. My leadership background extends from the military, fatherhood, ministry leadership, to just working inside of the community. And then, of course, working in just about every single position on the front end of a car dealership's operation. It's been just a fun adventure for me, and I'm so excited to be able to share some leadership techniques, tools, and some of the going forward thoughts on what it takes to be a leader today, because it is a whole new time that we're in, Mike.
It absolutely is. Let's dive right into it. First off, what do you see that is different? Well, what are some changes that you've seen, and are we talking this year or the last couple years when it comes to leading other people?
A big piece is the resource of having the understanding of what to do. We've never been at a spot where education is at our fingertips more than we've ever had it. It's so incredible that we're able to research how to do something and then be able to be somewhat of an expert at it in a few tries, or at least get the job done. Right. So it's so different to be able to have those resources available to us, while at the same time, it also makes it even the more, I guess I would say, prevalent to be a leader that kind of knows what you're doing because you've kind of watched a couple YouTube videos on stuff, but you don't really have any time in service. You don't really have any doing a thing. So you can get kind of a little bit on both ends of it. But right now we have the opportunity for people to be able to have access to leaders and leadership and mentors different than ever before. So I would say one of the biggest things is the access to information is so much more available now. As a leader, you used to really have to dig deep, spend some time inside of the library doing research for hours, where now the information is at your fingertips. If you know how to ask the right questions from a person or Google, you can find so much more of what it is that you're needing.
Absolutely. I would agree with you. I think you bring up a really good point. The fact that there's access there. I mean, people could be tuning into this podcast or your podcast where we have these frank conversations, and it's like, you remember the Kevin Bacon theory, right? Where everybody is, six
And
separations away from Kevin Bacon. You can find your way to him. Well, it's the same way with leadership and mentors. And one of the things that I think is important is you're saying, like, yeah, we can find the information, but what's the application to it? Like, there is no replacement for practical application. There's no replacement for actually executing. People could be watching the show and taking notes and saying, oh man, that's really good. Yeah, I'm going to go to Google right after this and look at what it takes to do this thing. But until you have the actual experience doing it, and to shift gears just a little bit, even from the leadership point, I think one thing that is still really valuable is mentorship. Actually having real communication with people. I mean, you and I, part of the way that I got to know you was in a morning car church group, right? I mean, we had interacted online some.
church.
Shout
Wednesday
out to
morning,
car church.
5 Eastern Standard Time. Jump on in there.
But that's where you and I first got an opportunity to interact. And even coming down to like this show, I thought, man, that is somebody that I would really like to have a deeper conversation with and be able to share your influence with people, because I think it's so valuable. And I wouldn't have known, because again, you and I had been connected, I think, on social media for a while, but you don't know someone until you know someone, right?
So true. So true. And that's the part of true mentorship is a mentor gets to actually know you, and you get to know who it is that's speaking into you. That's never a position to take lightly, being somebody's mentor or being the mentee of one. It's such a vital piece of anybody's growing, that they have people that can cut on them in a loving way, that can encourage them in a loving way, and keep them accountable inside of a loving way. And when I say love, it's whether I mess this up or not, you don't change your position on me, right? That type of mentorship is vital. And to your point, on so many different levels here in the industry, whether it's having mentors that tell us what good things to do and that we should be doing and we're capable of doing, much like the auto industry does go and gets a lot of notes taken. We'll go to a lot of conventions, we'll go to a lot of masterminds, see a lot of cool products, tools, and ideas, write them all down, say we need all of it. And then it's implementing. And that's one thing that we do specialize in, is helping to jump into a dealership or any type of a company to be able to say, okay, these are the things that you're wanting to use, you have to use. This is how you actually put them into the habitual action of implementation, because nothing is really implemented inside of a business until it becomes habit.
No, that's a really good point. Let's talk about that for a minute. Give you a chance to pump up what it is you do, because I think it's pretty unique that you're going into businesses, auto dealerships primarily at this point. Maybe you expand in the future, who knows? But you're going into businesses sort of sideloaded, right? Because they already have a hierarchy. They already have a leadership team and staff and middle management and all those things. You're coming in from the side, and so to speak, and if I've got that wrong, correct me, but you're coming in sort of this bolt-on component and saying, hey, here's what we see and here's what you need to do. So that's a very unique leadership role, to be coming into an organization that already has that structure and says, hey, maybe we want to do this, or yeah, we saw this done that one time, or that maybe they come to you as a blank slate, Lou, and they say, hey, what do you see that we need to do? So from that leadership perspective, without giving away all the secret sauce, what are some of the first 2 or 3 things that you advise people, maybe in upper management, middle management, and then those frontline people?
So
that's a bunch of questions.
Right, completely with you. Well, one thing is to recognize that no matter what level you are inside of the hierarchy of any business, whether it's a dealership or a pest control company, because we are expanded outside of automotive. Hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. Inside of that,
that's great.
There is the understanding that everybody has to be understood and understand their function, but that everybody in essence is a leader. They are a leader of whatever mission it is they're supposed to man. So in the military, my mission primarily was to be the logistics sergeant. I had this level of responsibility, whether I had somebody directly in my command responsible inside of my squad that was with me or not. I still had a particular mission I was responsible for. And that's one great thing about the military that I love, that transitions to just about every other great operating company, is that everybody knows the mission and knows their part in it, and that you take the lead. So as a salesperson, you're still in leadership. You're leading a customer down the path to purchase for themselves to achieve their goal. It's the same thing inside of a senior leadership position. How can I help everybody achieve their goal? Because in essence, them achieving their goal is how I reach my goal. And when the more layers of personnel that you then become responsible for, you have to then get them all understanding that they have a position, they have a weapon they're supposed to maintain, take care of, ammunition they're supposed to be accountable for, and then know how to actually utilize it. So recognizing, one, that everybody is a leader is a big piece when we do come into a store and we do fuse into their function. And then after that, Stephen Covey has a famous quote: seek first to understand, then to be understood. And that is something that's critical for us to be able to understand the people that we're talking to, because we're not talking to robots. We're talking to humans that each have their motivations. They may be all wearing the same uniform. They may be all repping the same brand, but that does not mean that they all have the same motivations to achieve the results that are required of them. So understanding them and then helping them to understand is the best way to get anybody to work with you. If they don't feel like you care about them, they're not going to understand how to even respond to you when you give them direction for them, or even cutting on them. Who was it that said it? John Maxwell made it famous, but it might have been Teddy Roosevelt that said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right?
Yeah.
And it is critical to let people know when we do come in, is that we're here to help optimize your position, especially in leadership. But there is a statement that I like to try to put out there in understanding that professional leaders, they're needed, they are expected, and man, are they empowered to show that they care. And being the Army guy that I am, everything is an acronym with me. Just about every type of teaching that we give, we break down different type of acronyms. But CARE, the CARE, they are required. Leaders are required to show that they care. And those different acronyms are broke down for us to understand different pieces of the puzzle when we're dealing with people. But they also need to know how to act. ACT, and I can break those down for you here in a moment.
Love it.
But yeah, absolutely, would really love to. But again, there's deliberate things that we have to do as leaders. We have to show certain things, and if the people that we're following can't see them, well, then we can't necessarily even know that we gave it to them, right? Just because I give you a requirement that's expected of you doesn't mean you know how to give me that result or even know how to complete the task. And so how can I ask for you to complete a task if I never showed you how to do it? Right? I mean, this is where leadership falls apart. We say we have this mission to complete. We'll put it down on the board and then say, let's go get it. And everybody's, yeah, let's go. And so many people walk out of a meeting and say, I don't know how to do anything different than what I've always done.
Right.
But to break down, show if you guys are taking notes.
Before you go, because there's two things, and I would like to recap so that I make sure. One, I learn a ton from having these conversations and interviews. So first, you said, hey, first you got to go in and people have to understand. They got to understand the mission, and they need to be understood. And that number one, what I heard you say was number one was everybody's a leader. Number two then is the Stephen Covey's, seek first to understand. And so you got to understand the mission and so forth. And I think those are both really, really powerful. And I am intrigued now. So if you would break down which one's first, care or act?
Well, show that you care. So always, care is always going to be first. So care. The C for care is courtesy. You have to show courtesy to people. You have to show it. If you don't show courtesy to people, even if it's that you're running behind, then the courtesy of their running behind may not be extended to you too, right?
Sure.
In any scenario, you have to show courtesy to others. And if you're ever inside of a leadership role and you're ever expected to be shown that honor as a leader that, yes, you rightfully have probably earned, you've probably put your time in, but you've probably put your time in understanding that you got to show some people a common courtesy. And inside of that courtesy would be the C. So keep taking these notes, everybody.
Yep. I'm taking them in the side too myself. Keep rolling, Lou.
Right. Letter A is appreciation. You have to show appreciation for people. If you don't show people that you're appreciating them, you're not going to have people around to appreciate. You're just not going to be there. Okay. Everybody wants to be appreciated. No different than any leader listening to this, watching this, hearing this. What you've done to get where you are, you wanted certain measures of appreciation, and you've probably made some moves in your careers based off of appreciation. I want to go where I'm loved. Well, the people inside of your command, your leadership, need to know it. They have to be appreciated. So you have to show appreciation. The next is the R. And that's, of course, what everybody wants. And that's some of that Aretha Franklin. Give me some of that respect.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what it means to. Okay.
Get it. Come on, right? I need some R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Give me some of that. You got to show some of that. You have to show respect to people, show honor to people, especially you new managers that jump into a new role, whether you're inside of a role where you're with people that you've been around for a long time and they've seen you elevate into a leadership position. Show respect immediately. Start showing respect right away. Even if you're new, nobody knows who you are. Show respect to the veterans, to those people that have put their time in service, and also show them the things that it takes for your respect to be granted. Everybody has a different measure of what it is that they are impressed with. I'm not the easiest guy to impress, but certain little tiny things would impress me greatly. If you start to put out the standard of what it is that you respect as a leader, as one that is trying to charge people to go to a new level, let them know that. But you have to show that respect. The E, and this is the part that's probably usually easiest for me, and that's enthusiasm. Goodness, you have to show enthusiasm. If you're a leader, it doesn't matter if the ship is going down. That ship better be going down with a big old smile, riding that. You gotta be still bringing the positive, bringing the enthusiasm. You set the table for the enthusiasm inside of your store. So inside of your store, inside of your business, inside of your group, your culture, I don't know who it is you all that listening have access to, but you have to show enthusiasm. If you are showing that you're bummed out because of whatever's going on in your personal world, or maybe even what's happening on the job, guess what? Everybody's going to follow their immediate supervisor for the most part. They're going to be in lockstep with you. So enthusiasm is critical, everybody. So that is what a leader needs to show. Show that
they gotta care. Let me recap. I got the recap for you. So you got courtesy, appreciation, RESPECT, and enthusiasm. Care. No, I love it, man. I absolutely love it. And I'm an acronym guy. Like when I blog and when I do other stuff. So like that stuff sticks for me. And I think it's relevant. And you said something at the end here. I'm going to hang on this for a minute because I think it's really powerful, Lou. People they learn and they reproduce what they live, right? We say that with kids, right? Kids learn what they live. So they see it and then they do it. And if you're in a leadership role, if you are anywhere to be seen, which is everywhere, right? People are always watching whether you want them to or not. I've heard it said, like, as a leader, if you catch a cold, your crew catches pneumonia. Right? It's always amplified. It's always amplified. So if you're, whatever it is that you're doing, you think, oh, I'm just going to do this little thing where, whatever it may be, where you're using your acronym, your care. Like if you're not showing courtesy, they're going to downright show disrespect, right? If you're not showing appreciation, it's going to be complete apathy, right? So look at what those opposites are, because whatever it is that you're doing, it's amplified. So I think that's really powerful.
That's good stuff. That's so true.
And then you said, once you care, you got to act.
You got to know how to act. If there's anything that we've been taught, or I've been trying to be taught as a kid, they've always tried to tell me how to act, where you're supposed to act. And even jumping into the military, keep your military bearing about you, right? Know how to act. If you go into a certain place, know how to be, know how to act, know how to respond. And we are live at a dealership right now, everybody. Just so
I see that. That's great.
I'm hanging out here in the key room, okay? And so people might be running in here, grabbing keys, grabbing
it's all good,
copies and stuff. But real life, we are on the scene right now. But yes, so know how to act. Know how to act. So these are the things that as a leader, you must functionally be able to know what your plan is or know how to bring it. And the A for act is accountability. You better know who you're accountable to, know what you're accountable for, know who's accountable to you, and make sure that they know what they're accountable for, right? But know how to bring that measure of accountability and be diligent about continuously refining how you keep accountability. But you better know that you have accountability inside of your command or your company, whatever it is that you're leading. The next piece, communication.
Love it.
Communication is critical. That's where the majority of the breakdowns happen. You have to have communication and have a plan in place of how we communicate. And communication's on so many different levels. It's whether it's the tools in which we communicate inside of our company, whether it's the text threads, which how many of you leaders out there have 73 different types of ways that everybody communicates. If there's one thing that I've noticed through so many different companies, it's they want to consolidate that down, right? Why do we have to have 7 text threads and 8 different platforms to get one message across, and people are still not getting the memo, right? That is,
you got email, you got text, you got Slack, you got the smoke signals, whatever.
Drop the message inside of Slack. I never knew about it. How did you not know about it? We did it on the text thread. Which text thread? I'm not in on that one.
I sent it from text straight to Google Meet. Weren't you paying attention? Right?
Exactly. And so there's that one level of communication. So utilizing our technology in communication, but also, and this is a critical piece for us, and as we try to impact and affect culture, because we are on an evangelistic type mission to the auto industry to change how we speak, to change how we not just speak about the customer, how we speak about ourselves, how we speak about our beliefs, how we speak about our faith, how we speak, period. And so a primary piece in communication is language and understanding how to speak to somebody. Some of your more seasoned leaders right now have a pretty big language gap between the generation coming in. And it's not just in a measure of slang, it's in a measure of speaking about the things that even matter to them, to us. Right? If you haven't raised an adult kid in this time, it might be kind of harder for you to make that connection to what is it that they're even worried about? What are they thinking about? What are they afraid of? What are they concerned about? Of course, every generation has kind of dwindled off of wanting to be like the generation before them. But with that said, that the generation that turns themselves to wanting to communicate properly with the next generation is always the one that wins, right? Turning the hearts of the fathers to the sons and the sons to their fathers. That's true synergy. That's what we want to see mountains actually move. But communication is critical. You better know how to communicate. And then the T, to cap it off, is training. Training. If you're a leader, training is critical. If you're a leader, you got there by way of being trained, whether it's on the job training or you've been invested in and you've gone to training, you've gotten trainers to come to you, you've had coaches. Training is critical, and making it a priority inside of your personal life to be trained, to be refined, to be improved is important. But to be able to provide training for the people that you have in your command that are following you, training them is critical. A little bit every day goes a long way, and it doesn't have to be extensive. But what we often see is that people want to train, they agree it has to happen, but have such a hard time prioritizing it. And even when they prioritize it, even if they set a time for it, then it comes up to, well, now I don't even know what content to bring. I don't even know what to bring to this meeting, right? And so you have half done meetings from time to time where you have isolated attention of people. And if you don't capitalize on that time that you have to train, people walk out of there feeling unfulfilled in the time that they just spent. So if you have people that walk out of a meeting that you are having, Mr. Leader, and they say, what the heck did we just even talk about? I don't know if I learned anything. I don't have a note to take with me. I don't know what just happened. If that's happening inside of your training, well, you need to readdress your training. And if you can legitimately say inside of your business, you know what, we don't do any training on a consistent basis. Well, that is a big fat red flag to say, hey, we need to prioritize training. And in the car business, often it's, oh man, but we're working customers. You will work so many more and help so many more customers, so many more opportunities if you do prioritize training. Training is
absolutely. And you see Sam Sneed says too, he says, man, everybody's loving this. So I love that you're just bringing the fire, Lou, but he says these have to happen daily.
Amen. Yes. Daily.
And let me break something down. I want to work backwards through it. So ACT, accountability, communication, training, because I want to touch on each of these too. So one thing that you brought up is, hey, the training has to happen. Like, yes, the training has to happen from you, the leader, to the followers, to the staff, to the people that you want to impact and grow and all of those things. Keep in mind too, one of the things that often goes unsaid, nobody wants to talk about this, like as the leader, what are you doing to train yourself? Because if you are incapable or incompetent to train, you got nothing to train on. Let's call it like it is. Like you have to constantly be keeping yourself out in front of other people. You have to leave them wanting, right? Saying, okay, and I'll give you a tip. I heard this said many years ago, and I love this saying too. I'm gonna leave you with this one, Luke, because you'll like this. A level 8, let's say you're in an auto dealership, because that's my background as well, been in there for 20 years. And so in an auto dealership, if you get a really awesome salesperson and they're like a level 8 or level 9 salesperson, now inevitably one of the faults that we have is we always move them into management because they sold a lot of cars, so let's make them later. That's not always the solution. That's not where I'm going. But if you got a level 8 salesperson, they're only going to follow a level 6 manager for so long.
Correct.
So you got to level up. You got to level up your leadership. You have to constantly be training yourself. So I think that's really valuable, what you're saying about training and training other people. And keep in mind, what are you doing to stay on the forefront as well? If you're a leader, if you're a manager. And I think one of the things that often gets in the way, and Lou, you're engaged in businesses all the time. One thing I think that gets in the way, the great killer of training, not even time, right? Time is the excuse. But yes. Ego is the real killer. Mm-hmm. Ego is the real killer when it comes to leadership and management, because they say, well, I've already come to the top of the mountain. I already know that, so I don't need that, right? If I know it, I don't need it type of deal. And it's like, yeah, well, let me refresh your memory here.
So with that, Mike, there's that's a wall that, of course, if you've worked in car business a long time, what does Sam say over here? He said
we've all been in meetings where the leader just talks at it and is never engaged. It's unfruitful.
So true.
I know it, quote unquote. I know it. Yeah. Shout out to Sam. Cause it's like, and that's the thing. It's like the statement, right? You will know them by their fruit.
Mm-hmm. So true. And with that, recognizing that the fruit tree is always going to grow more when it gets cut on, right? The pruning is designed to yield more fruit. And recognizing that, and as a leader, sometimes a leader doesn't get that, because the word is very clear about you have to be mindful about how you receive correction. Sometimes a leader has a hard time being corrected. So I encourage you all leaders, encourage good correction, good, healthy correction for yourself. It's only going to make you better. But one of the things that we do when we come into a store, for those of you that know your staff, because we know plenty of owners and we know plenty of people in the car business. And Mike, like you said, you've been in the car business 20 years. So what you know about most car guys is they all know everything. Yeah. All of them know everything there is about everything. So one of the things that we try to make sure we do on one of the first hellos we have with most people, especially the leadership team. It's to establish what is the biggest room in the world. We ask that question of everybody. So we'll ask all of you, those of you that are watching, drop it inside of the comments. What is the biggest room in the world? And once they sit there and they ponder and they say, well, this room or that room, whatever, the answer is always the room for improvement. And when they get that, they all have to nod their head. They all have to agree that no matter what measure of an excellent professional we can put up as an example in any capacity, whether it's sports, to fitness, to military, every single leader would say, yes, there's always room for improvement. Yes, we can be better. Yes, I can be better. And when we all recognize that the biggest room in the world is room for improvement, and we all fit in it, and we all can grow in it consistently, constantly, then the measure is, now what are we doing to do so? Because you know what? No one can know it all. No one knows all. Okay. And
absolutely,
if they get their head nodding, oh yeah, the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. And they have that aha moment, right?
right.
And you start coming in. Okay, well, here's the first piece of improvement we've noticed we need to correct. And then it's like, oh, but it's also presenting it that way. If it's presented as here's room for improvement rather than here's correction or here's where you're getting it wrong, right? Sure. It's received so much different. I love my friend Eric Barbosa. Right now he's with the Cavender Group doing incredible things. And when we had the chance to come and train at his store the very first time, he gave us some incredible feedback. And he was saying, we've had so many trainers come into the store, but I love that you didn't come in here and tell them everything that they're doing wrong. You came in here and you told them what they have the capability of doing and got them to agree to it. And that is a game changer because they go in there expecting to be told how wrong they are, especially in the car business. Most of the meetings will kick you in the teeth meetings, right? And those meetings generally produce very little inside of positive activity because they leave defeated because of what they have not done. So rather, instead of saying where it is that you're wrong, hey, let me present to you where it is that you can improve. And that's a game changer just in conversation. Again, changing our language is a critical communication piece.
Language is super powerful. We got a couple other comments. Leadership with Mike. Mike's a good friend of mine. He says, so cheesy, but so true. Mike, you're a dad. You're a dad, Mike.
Grandpa. So I got the
You're a grandpa? You're kidding me.
Grandfather. That's right. I got my first grandbaby. She's going to be 9 months old soon. And I got the second grandbaby on the way. So excited.
Congratulations, man. I didn't even know that. I had no idea. I look the part of the grandpa. You look like
these lights aren't
light-headed
at all. They're definitely making sure you guys see that I've earned them.
He says, yeah, I'm going to use it. I'm going to use this stuff. And then Sam again says, I like that room. My ego didn't want to see it at first. I had to own that decision. That's so important. You do have to own it. You have to have that open mind and the willingness to own it. I want to step back because there's two things that, like you were saying, hey, when you came into the dealership, ooh, there's a ping. Was that your computer pinging?
Yeah, it is.
The one of the things you said, hey, when you go into a store, when you go into a business and people are expecting one thing and you approach it differently, that goes back to the saying you said before was people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You go in from a place of caring first, a caring leadership role of, hey, I genuinely want to impact you. I want to grow you. I want to, we want to do this. And I again, from having gotten to know you a bit, I like that doesn't question it at all. You're and going back to the enthusiasm too, right? The energy and enthusiasm. I'm going to step back too on communication. One thing that I think people often miss, and you've carried it throughout this conversation, and so I want to distill it down a little bit, because as you're saying communication with people, one thing that you've got to realize is communication, the quality of your communication is based on the receiver, not on the giver of that communication. And so I know you didn't say that directly. I've shared it in prior podcasts, but I hear you saying that, like, hey, when we go in, we take this approach. because you're waiting to see how that team receives what it is that you're saying, you're sharing, your actions, and so forth. And so that's one way you can gauge communication, I think. As you're talking a lot about this, and for people that may be listening to the audio podcast after, or if you're watching the show, like, you got to realize that communication is not how we want to communicate, but how somebody else receives it.
Right. So just to expand on that,
Yeah.
Mike, on the person sending the message has the responsibility to make sure they send it in a way that's receivable, right? So the quarterback has to throw the pass in a way that it's catchable. If it's not, then you can only say so much to the receiver. Now, if the receiver, right, if they get a hand on that sucker, that's, you touched it. You should have caught it. Right? So the accountability ranges, but it is so imperative that those that have a mission, like when we show up to a store, and though I know our stuff works, and if you do certain things, it's going to take you to the next level. But if I say all of the stuff, but you don't get it, then I really said it for myself to hear me say it rather than for you to get it. So it's imperative that you make sure you do recognize your audience, you do read them. So when you have a great charge of people, a great amount of people to speak to, making sure that you can get those buy-ins, get those head nods, get those common understandings clear, right? Connect the room, high fives, fist bumps, get them to communicate, say it back to you, respond back to you, just like we do with our kids or any of our subordinates. What did I just say? Just like my wife does with me, right? What did I say you need to get at the store? Say it back.
Yeah.
I'm sending you a note.
Milk, eggs. Yeah. I'm texting you.
Yeah, I'm texting it to you right now, right? But it's the same thing. We have to make sure that they received it. If I'm sitting there speaking to, if I walk up to somebody and I start asking them the directions place, and they talk a completely different language than me, like literally, they speak Chinese, I speak English, and they look at me, they head nod all the way, but didn't know what I said, right?
Sure.
Then it's my responsibility to find a way to translate. If I need them to do something, I need to get a message to them. So it is imperative on both sides. Yes, the receiver has to be plugged in and be prepared in a posture to receive, but it is critical for the leader that has that receiver to know, how do you receive? How do you want it? Because I'm sure that the quarterback and the receiver say, if I throw it to you this way, where would you prefer me to place it? If I can, how can I accommodate you the easiest? Oh man,
left shoulder, right shoulder. What do I got to hit?
Yeah, which is the best way? What are you looking for? Oh, okay, bet. I'm going to try to do it that way, and then we both accommodate accordingly. It's not enough to just get the head nod. It then has to be, did you really receive the message? Right, and it is actually my responsibility to make sure you received it. Otherwise, I'm just sending letters in the wind, and they don't even have a mailbox,
Oh man, no, absolutely. And one last thing, I'm working back through this backwards, where you're talking training communication. Let's talk about accountability for a minute too, because that is something that has come up, in a number of the shows here on my podcast. When we're talking about leadership, a lot of people say, well, it's accountability. And I think it's easy sometimes, and I know it's not with you, but I know that it's easy sometimes for leaders to say, well, gosh, accountability is important. And it's like transparency was a few years ago in the car business, or algorithm, right? It becomes the buzzword of the year, right? Well, you got to hold people accountable. Well, how do you hold people accountable? Well, you just have to hold them accountable. Just, they got to do it. So let me ask you, Lou, when you talk accountability, how can you hold somebody accountable? Or can you?
Well, of course, yes, you definitely can. So always having a re-interview. If there's certain things that you need done inside of your departments and with your individuals in their positions, having a re-interview of what is it that's expected of the job that they're taking on. So saying, if I was to have somebody replace you, I'd explain to them, these are the things I need done. So let me just explain them to you so that you have them, right? These are the actual things I need done. And this is how we're going to check on them, and then actually check on them. So you need accountability for the accountability, right? There has to be a way that you periodically set into motion the things that you want to check on, the things that you want to keep accountable. It can't be a burden of accountability. It has to be something that seems relieving. Taking the spin on it, turning it around to making it feel so burdensome. It has to be postured and presented in a way that it's said, hey, no, this is really actually to gird you. This is to give you that support. This is to help reinforce everything that you have to get done. That's why we're adding this accountability. So what we generally do, whether it's having daily tasks that have to be achieved, all the way to weekly tasks that have to be achieved, then those get tallied up to monthly tasks that get achieved. So we have a thing that we teach. It's called Make It Happen Mapping. And for depending on the type of business that it is that they do, these are the certain things that have to happen. Some of you may use calendars or you might use sticky notes, and you'll write down the list of the things you got to do today. I got to do these things today, and it's on a sticky note, and that's an awesome place for it, right? If that's what it is, if that's how you keep your accountability together, I have to get these things done. Great. Once you check those off, you feel great about yourself. You've had a successful day. Well, putting those accountability measures into a daily practice, because so often where we lack in maximizing our time is somebody doesn't know what to do with it. They say, well, I've done this, done that, and this hasn't happened to present me the opportunity to do the other part of my job. What should I do next? Well, instead, how about we just very clear about what you have to do today? These things have to get done. We understand that your job may have many other things that have to get done, but these are the key things. So we would narrow down for the dealerships, it's the 7 key things that have to go down. And not one of them is sell a car. And this is pertaining to a salesperson.
It's interesting.
Is sell a car, but every single one of those have to happen in order to achieve the outcome of selling at least a minimum of 1 car a day. That is the primary function of the leader, is to make sure that they set in place the accountability and the way to check it. If you don't actually have a way to check it, well, you don't have accountability. You have a system that makes you feel a little good, but you're not actually moving the needle, and have a way to measure it. You have to be able to see whether the work is getting done or not. Daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, it should all line up. But it does start with what do I have to do right now? And then do it.
That's good. Well, and I think too that without a system of checks and balances, all it is a conversation, right? Well, hey, we talked about it. Okay. Like that, then it ends there. So you got to have the checks and balances. I've heard it said, just to shift a little bit. I heard, and I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. He said that you got to separate the musts from the shoulds, right?
Yes.
You've probably heard that. Like, I must get this done. I got to separate the musts from the shoulds, because if you don't, you end up usually focusing on the shoulds and you should all over yourself. Right? So let me ask you, I want to shift gears on you a little bit here, Lou. We got, we're coming up about the 45-minute mark. So one of the things that I think, oftentimes people will tune in and listen to this podcast, and it's like, man, Lou knows what he's talking about. He's so polished and got all these great answers. And like, we've had a lot of good comments and conversation and so forth. Or if they're watching this, it's easy to look at somebody like where you're at right now and go, man, they've got it all. Like, he's got the checklist, he's got the stuff. There's really been no stumbling blocks while you and I are having the conversation. Would you be willing to share what are some stumbling blocks that you've experienced in your career? What are some, 1 or 2 things that it's like, hey, here, this thing happened, I hit a wall, and this is what I did to overcome it? Because I think that's something that's valuable for people to know. I mean, for my story, your story, we're talking about you right now, but is that something you'd be willing to share a little bit of?
Absolutely. And some of them are funnier than others. So growing into different leadership positions, whether it was military or auto related, I have often been there's no way you have 4 kids, there's no way you're a grandpa, the younger looking guy inside of the more seasoned position. One critical stumbling block for me was often thinking that somebody thinks the way that I think, or they can get it like I get it. One thing that helped me out tremendously was taking a few actual personality tests, doing the test where you answer honestly, you don't try to work the system, but answering honestly some of the personal indexes of yourself, knowing how you react, what makes you work best with other people? What are some of the things that other people are turned off on by your high energy, excited personality? What is it that how are you turning people off? It was a big issue for me when I first started having leadership roles in the car business, because people in the car business didn't necessarily have the military training that I had, and understood certain parts of, we got to get the mission done. So them being as eager to get the job done like I was, didn't work. So a big stumbling block for me helped me to learn to understand I have to connect with somebody. I have to get them to understand me, or I have to understand them before they're ever going to understand me. I stumbled my way into understanding that when saying, hey, I know I'm saying good stuff. I know I'm leading in the right direction. Daggone it, I know how to do this job. Why aren't they listening? Well, because I wasn't listening to them. So that was a big piece of the puzzle of, nobody really wants to follow me because I have a position. I've recognized that they only wanted to follow me because I could get them where they're trying to go. And once I realized that that was actually my role as a leader, in whatever measure I was of a leader, that's when I started to make the connection with other people. Another big piece is recognizing jargon. Some people just don't know my language. And right now, there's even a measure of language that I'm utilizing on this show that I may not have on a normal basis. You're getting a little bit more of the professional, like you would say, the polished.
I'm getting refined Lou.
Right? Because regularly, this is, I'm the nature of Lou Ramirez. I'm a New York kid that speaks straight and talks how I talk, but I pull that into a different type of a speaking mode depending on who I'm speaking to, because that doesn't necessarily connect with everybody. But there's understandings of who to use your language with and when. And just a funny story on the car lot, using the jargon to a customer of what it's like doing a deal with what in the car business would be called a one-legged up. Mike, what's a one-legged up in the car business? Talking for
when you only got half of them there.
Okay, well, Mike,
you're
gonna love this.
Okay,
you're gonna love this story. So we had a customer that was going back and forth with a salesperson on many different areas, and I was being reluctant to give certain information to the customer or move to a different level because I knew that the decision maker in the process was not part of the process at the moment. And because of that, it ended up us having to make the TO occur. Now I'm sitting in front of the customer, and my salespeople are gathered around another desk to try to watch and listen in to me taking a TO, because they would love the lessons that would come inside of that. And sometimes just the fun, sheer car guyism of it. You know what I mean? With that said, I once started speaking to the customer, and I explained to the customer, Mr. Customer, this is what we call you inside of our business. We call you a one-legged up, because you're trying to achieve something without the two legs needed to get us where we're trying to go. And the customer said, what? And they really didn't hear what I said after I said one-legged up. They said, one-legged up. And he looked back at me and he said, son, you don't know how one-legged I am. And he continued to pull his leg off.
Oh, no.
Amputee the prosthesis. Pull that off and put it onto the desk, onto the table. And I had to take a straight face. My salespeople are in my peripheral. I can see them falling on each other with the ohs and oh my gosh, and whoa. And I had to stay there, straight face, straight poker face to say, and then look him right back in the face, though I was mortified. Mike, I'm not even kidding. I was absolutely,
I can't imagine,
mortified at the moment. So much is running through me right now of what in the world do I say? And then I just kept it real with him, and he appreciated that. And I just asked him.
You just say, sir, did you want to call your wife now?
And I just asked him, I said, okay, well, now that you don't have that leg on, how easy is it for you to get around? Are you going from here to the door? How easy is it for you to get around? He said, well, it's a lot harder. Well, that's exactly what we're saying, is that you're missing a very important piece to get us going where we need to go, and it's causing more frustration. I apologize, Mr. Customer, for the use of that term, but that's why we did that. And as he understood and he started nodding his head, of course, I'm the champion of my sales guys right there, because it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you kept your head together. And I had to go to the back, laugh my face off, be like, take the moment in. It was a great victory for all of us. We finally got the wife in there, helped him buy a vehicle, all the other good stuff happened. But I was ridiculously mortified at that moment.
Sure.
Where I tried to use jargon that I thought would almost impress my customer without being sensitive to saying, you know what, my customers don't need to know how we talk back here. This is shop talk. They don't get it, and I don't need to spend time making them understand that. That might be more detrimental. It worked to our favor slightly. I think we would have still worked it together anyway without the man taking his leg off inside.
Well, I mean, that bridged the communication gap. Like, he got it then, right? I mean, that's
But I mean, it was a clear moment I could have just been in all apology mode, depending on who took that situation on, right?
Sure.
And it was definitely, I didn't allow it to mess with my peace, but I learned a big lesson right there. Whoa, watch it. They don't always get it, and some people can be sensitive to situations you know not of. And but yeah, that was a humbling situation. I hope somebody got a laugh out of that, because that's real life.
Well, but I think there's a good lesson there, that, I mean, it we can always, one, you can learn something from every situation. And you're right, there's a difference between being humbled and being humiliated too, right? I mean, there is a difference, so that it's like, it's one of those where it's open mouth, insert foot, and you kind of take it a little bit. But part of what I'm hearing too, and part of, like, that's who you are, Lou. You have the personality that you were probably a bit connected with the guy first, and you're like, hey, I'm just going to lay it out here for you. So then when it happens, you're able to recover, because he probably still could feel the energy that it's like, you're a good guy, right? It's just a humbling moment. So what's that?
Stumbled on your words there a little bit.
Yeah. Well, so, hey, we're right here at the tail end. We're just almost to an hour. Couple things as a reminder for everybody. Let me pop these back on the screen. If you have not done so already, you can check out carguycoffee.com to hear Lou's podcast. You guys do when is your podcast? What days, what times?
So our podcast gets released 2 times a week at a minimum, on Mondays and Thursdays. And the podcast will release multiple podcasts depending on how much we record in a given session. Right now, we're currently rolling through our DC 20 series. I believe that Jonathan Dawson is one of the more recent interviewees. We did what's called Interbrew with them over at the Drive Centric headquarters. And right now, the whole series is just coming out of all the people that we brewed with while we were there, talking about some big solutions. But you can't possibly consume all the Car Guy Coffee on the Car Guy Coffee website. All of our episodes are posted on there. And if you want to go to our YouTube channel, you can watch every episode we've ever recorded, even if it hasn't made it onto the podcast platforms yet. And You can watch them live. And but we've been doing that for 3 years, and there's plenty of solutions and some of the best people in the industry that have dropped some information that you will not hear them talk about on any other podcast, because it gets to the depth of who they are rather than just the awesomeness they do.
That's so good, man. So yeah, definitely check out that podcast, check out the YouTube channel. And then, as I mentioned before, if you want to work with Lou and his team, you can go to certifiedsolutionaries.com and schedule a solution session. That's a lot to say, right? So if they didn't do that already. And Lou, as we come to the tail end here, any final thoughts to take us out with, sir?
Yes. Leaders, if there's anything that you should ever if you ever get the chance to read, hear anything that gets put out from Certified Solutionaries, Car Guy Coffee, Lou Ramirez, it's to reverse those F-bombs. You have to learn how to drop the F-bombs that don't offend the moms. And that's to learn how to forgive, focus, and fly, so that you can keep growing all the time. That is a fundamental piece to teach into your teams. Learn how to forgive fast, that's the best way that you can ever win the fight for focus. And if you can succeed inside of that fight for focus, well, then stretch out in faith and proceed to fly. And once you get to the highest height you've ever been to, well, keep growing, keep growing, keep growing, keep growing, keep going. Love you all.
Love it, man.
God bless you all.
God bless you, Lou. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you having you on the show. Just phenomenal information, a lot of tangible, workable information for people. So thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and take this out, and I'll catch up with you in a minute. So for everybody here that took the time to join us on the Leadership Toolkit today, thank you so much. I genuinely hope you got just a ton of actionable information, insights, and from this special edition episode, we did a special time, had a lot of people engaged, and that's just absolutely awesome. So do me a favor, if you did not already, throw a thumbs up, throw a heart on the show. Is that a heart there? I don't normally do that. Throw a heart on the show, throw a thumbs up, share this episode. Right? Click subscribe if you're watching on the YouTube channel. If you're listening, I'm on iTunes, on Spotify, but make sure you're subscribed to whatever platform that you prefer. And normally I do this every Wednesday at 12:05 p.m. Mountain, 2:05 Eastern. Share the show with somebody that would gain something out of it. I appreciate you very much. Thank you. And until we speak next, be great.